Welcome to the Eat, Slay, Live podcast.
And we are the Loxecutioners. We're going to be eating lightning and talking thunder and power bombing you right in the ear holes today. Welcome to the Eat, Slay, Live Daily Grow with myself, Todd Locks, the People's Champion. I know sometimes I get on here like it goes live and then I'm just sitting there like a big dummy and like I'm not saying anything. It's because the screen on here, I use StreamYard, it doesn't say it's live yet, but then I will jump on my phone and look and like, oh, it says you're live. So that's why I'm just sitting there like a doofus, okay? Anyway, great show today. We're continuing with our series on National Mental Health Month. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and start today with my birthday shout-outs. Everybody loves a good birthday shout-out. Jacob Saito, happy freaking birthday. Ashley Dix, happy birthday. We just talked yesterday about you and your husband coming to circuit for the first time. All right, we'll see you soon. Tijuana Knight, happy birthday. Cameron Garris, happy birthday. Abby May, haven't seen you at circuit in quite a while, Abby. Kathy Corradino, happy birthday, Kathy. You haven't seen you at circuit in a long time. Same with you, Alyssa Sherrill, haven't seen you in a while. Sarah Court, I'm going to bring up a picture of you in just a second. One of my favorite pictures. Patty Rhodes, miss you and Emma. Chelsea Lynn, happy birthday. Christina Window, happy birthday. Nathan Rosario, happy birthday. Remember our old days down at the Hit Squad with Hughes. Carrie Morgan, happy birthday. Elliot Greenhill. Christy Brim, happy birthday. Happy birthday to Jason Solufo, the best Muay Thai instructor around. Sarah Court, here's a picture real quick. Me, you, Allie Slaughter, and Carrie Allen one time on this old Army truck. I love that freaking picture. My boy Scott Schaefer, Delta Chi brother from Eastern Illinois. Here is him and I on the beach last year in Destin, Florida. Scott never likes to take my FaceTime phone calls. So here's a collection of me calling him on FaceTime and him not answering the freaking calls and me sending him dirty looks. Actually, there was supposed to be 3 of them, but I can only find 2. Scott, a brother, man, he's always there for me. I remember when I was just fed up with trying to find a building from going to Thunderdome 1.0 to Thunderdome 2.0. I went down, stayed with Scott and his family. He owns a gym down there, Showtime, and he offered me a job down there to come down and ran it. And man, that was so nice of him. Anyway, I have another Eastern Illinois alumni on the show, another Delta Chi brother. Although there's a discrepancy in age, we didn't actually go there at the same time, just from visits and then visiting him up, other guys up in Chicago. We became friends, Facebook friends, and it's Joel Pilka. Joel does his own podcast, even though he's been slacking a little bit. We're going to give him some crap about that. But Joel, I've been following him on social media for a long time, and he has a thing he calls Crush Life. And it's kind of like what I do here, just, trying to be a little bit better every day, just using routines and tasks and different things like that, just to try to make life a little better. And maybe it's not totally on our thing with mental health, with the mental health month, but believe me, doing these little things like he's going to talk about, it's helped him get through some struggles. So we're going to bring my friend on, Joel Pilka. What up, Joel? How you doing, brother?
Yeah, I love it. Thanks, man. I'm doing great.
In the bond, right? ITB, isn't that what they say?
In the bond, yeah. Woke up this morning, looked like I would have been in a boxing match all night, but we'll make it through.
Yeah, you look good, brother. Brother, you look good. Always look good. All right, so Joel, we're gonna start out with just some general information. Where are you from, brother?
Grew up in Wheeling, Illinois. I lived most of my life there, and
Is that right outside of Chicago?
Yeah, about 35, 40 minutes northwest of the city. Spent a lot of time there, down in Eastern Illinois, lived in Denver, lived in Nashville, lived in Phoenix. Now I'm in Nebraska.
And now, so Phoenix, Denver, you name all these places. And now we're in Nebraska.
Yeah.
What took us to Nebraska?
Family,
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that. Just traveling around. And my now ex-wife, yeah, that's where she's from. So my son's here, so I'm here.
It's always a woman. It's always a woman, right? So how many kids?
Just one 8-year-old boy. His name is Payne.
Payne, Payne?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, not like T-Pain. Now, speaking of Payne, is he wrestling now?
He was doing a little bit of wrestling, man. I didn't know. I never did any wrestling, but he loved it. He had a great time doing it. So it was cool to see him. Now he's crushing some football. Yeah, he's a little stud. He's fast. I like watching him.
Payne Pilka. I mean, that's a killer name.
Payne Patrick Pilka. Yeah, he's a cool dude.
I love that. All right, so we're going to talk about you have a thing. You know what we're going to do today. What are we going to do today, Joel?
We're going to crush life, buddy.
I love it, man. So I listened to a bunch of your podcasts this morning, like on the way to work, just the Crushing Live podcast. And so, man, I like how I was in mine was slay on you injures. What you know what we're going to do today? Crush life. So where did this philosophy sort of come from? How long ago did you start this? Why? There's some questions right there. When did you start it?
That was probably 7 years ago. It was before COVID. Me and a friend were starting this company. Everything was so negative in the world. And we're like, how do we, put out some positivity? So my friend Amy Dixon and I, we came up with the Positive Life Company. And one of our little slogans, kind of around the time Gary Vee came out with this Crush It book, was she came up with Crush Life. And it just kind of was like a tagline that we were using and a hashtag we were using. And then I just kept posting it everywhere because, with hashtags, if you hashtag something, you can search for it. So I was like, well, every time if I hashtag, I can, always search for anything that we've always posted. And then it kind of stuck. And after a couple of years of trying to make this Positive Life Company work, selling positivity is hard. I don't know. It's like selling happiness. It's a hard sell.
It should be easy though, shouldn't it? Shouldn't it be easy?
But we've had multiple consultants be like, selling happiness is a hard deal. So we dissolved that. And she's like, you should keep this tagline. It works with you. And so it was just something I just kind of thought it was corny along the way. I thought it was like a no fear type thing. It's kind of like no fear, in a way.
Just no fear.
Yeah. But it kind of like, and my friends would poke fun of me. You're like, oh, Pilka, crushing life over there. And how the guys do.
Dude, I can't tell you how many times people say to me, like my buddy, slay on, and they're not saying it, they're saying it facetiously. And you know what? I don't care because obviously they've seen it, they've heard it, they're using it,
100%, right? And they would say it facetiously, but there's part of them that also gets it too, and it's cool. So it kind of stuck there for a little while, and then I started taking it on. Then I started kind of like living it, with the podcast, for example.
You better freaking live it if you're saying it, bud.
Well, that's the thing, and because I thought about, is this silly? Like, you overthink it. So then with the podcast, I was like, let's challenge it. I'm like, let's do a daily podcast every day for a year. Let's just suck it up and see what happens. And then that's where that podcast came from. And then I just started saying at the end of it, and it just became, I guess, part of the persona, of the brand. You could call it a brand even right around it, I guess.
You've done like 300 episodes, I think, right?
Yeah. I mean, more than that, but yeah, at least 300 episodes. And it's nice because they're short. They're 3 minutes. Some of them are 10 minutes. I was on my way to work. I'm bitching. But I think there's a lot of good stuff in there. I've been meaning to transcribe it and make it into either a blog or a book or something, but I just haven't.
Couple things of that, like short. Yeah, that is something that the Eat, Slay, Live podcast and Daily Grow is not short. Back to your thing you were talking about selling happiness. You know what? I find a lot of people are happy being unhappy. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just like they want things to bitch about. They want things. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't want to be happy. I have some people around me that just always complaining, always down. It's like nothing brings them up. It's like they want to be stuck in that unhappiness. Do you see that? Is that what kind of how you felt when you were like, quote unquote, trying to sell happiness?
It is interesting. It's like you'll talk to people about it. And let's say you're talking to somebody about a problem. You'll try to give them solutions and they'll give you 100, comebacks onto why that's not going to work. And it's like they're trying, and they're not trying to shoot you down. I've realized over the years, they're not trying to shoot you down. They've already thought through that and they realize whatever you're telling me isn't going to work. And so, yeah, it's almost like they're trying to find reasons to be stuck where they are. It is interesting. Almost selling negativity would be easy. Would be easier. I mean, look at the news, for gosh sakes, right? So
They'd probably be like, no, we don't need any negativity. We're all stocked up already.
yeah, it's an interesting deal, but I think people appreciate it. What I've found over the years is I'll get messages and notes, even from my buddies. We'll click over and off to the side of the group chat where they don't want to show their, weakness or their emotions. And they'll say, hey man, I appreciate it. I've been walking every day, or I've been showing up every day. And you know what? You finally got through to me and I appreciate your videos. And it's like, that helps, sometimes it's nice to hear that. Like when you get stuff about your podcast or just the stuff that you post and the inspirational stuff that you're showing, people do watch, and I think they do appreciate it, which is nice to hear.
And when I listen to your podcast on Spotify, I noticed like you had a lot of people. You have a lot of people that commented and sent you feedback on that, which is awesome, right?
Yeah.
And I liked how you thanked everybody. Your podcast might only be like 3 minutes long, and then 30 seconds of it would be thanking the people who took the time to send you a comment or feedback about it. And that's awesome.
What's great too is, and I'm sure again this, it's interesting who listens. What friends of yours or what people you don't even know that listen and that will comment, and that's really cool. I'll have people I haven't talked to in years and be like, hey, I've been listening to all your shows, and you're just like, wow, and they'll reach out, and that's those small things keep you going for sure.
Yeah, I've had several like just sort of Delta Chi guys from our fraternity, Delta Chi, reach out to me a lot. The guys who I weren't necessarily really super close to reach out and like, hey, and ask for help with different things. So yeah, that's pretty cool when you can kind of touch someone like that,
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I've always said, and I think you follow the same philosophy. I put a lot of content and videos out there, and a couple things. One, it's good for me. Doing a live podcast every day is good for me. And I'm sure, and I can tell in your voice when you do your podcast, like you're doing it for other people. You're doing it to put content out there and maybe help anybody who might need it. But it's really a lot for yourself, right? Accountability for yourself.
100%.
We all have. So, and I tell people when I put stuff out there and I said, you need to eat clean, you need to work out, you need to do this. I don't do it because I live a perfect life and I do everything that I'm supposed to do. I do it because it's reminders. And if I put it out there, I feel like I got to live it. Like you said, you got to live that crush life. I feel like I have to live it a little more if I'm going to preach it,
Yeah, 100%. And to that point, the mental health part of it, it's a struggle. I mean, there's times when I don't post for a while, and I was just down at a DKI golf outing, and they're like, "Hey, I haven't seen you up there much." And a part of it is because it hasn't been easy, and it hasn't been true, and it's hard for me to be out there, be like, "Get your 5K a day in," live happy or whatever it is when I'm not feeling it, and it's like I feel like I'm lying, and so sometimes I won't post if it's just not true because it's hard. I mean, not hard to post, but I just feel like, you gotta be, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
I totally get it. You don't want to feel like you're an imposter. You get that imposter syndrome.
100%.
And I've heard you actually be vulnerable in some of your posts and some of your podcasts. You'll get on there and say that I have heard you do that. Like get on, say and admit that you're struggling a little bit with things.
Yeah, that's been tough. I mean, there's probably I definitely know there's been some tears shed, which were hard for me to post, but it was like I said I was going to post every day, and here it is. And called myself out on some things, put some things out there I said I was going to do that maybe I didn't, but the accountability really is what I'm doing it for that reason. It's for me. It's a lot of times it's challenging myself. Like I started doing the 5K a day. I was like, look, I think I need to walk more. I think I need to, and it was really just a challenge. I love 30-day challenges, but that one was like, let's do it for a year. I love to try to do the year thing. Do it in this
walk your 5K for a year.
Yeah. So it's just walk out the door. If it's bad out, you can go do it on a treadmill, but for the most part, it's outside.
Yeah. I saw you doing them outside. I saw you post some pictures and some videos of some pretty cold, gnarly days up there in Nebraska.
I had 2 puffer coats on.
That's what, another thing with putting out like videos and content and things like that. And I always say this, and I love, like, I would rather have one person watch it and get something out of it, maybe inspire them, maybe help them, than 1 million people watch it and get nothing out of it, zero inspiration or zero help from it.
Yeah, I know. And truthfully, at the back, and I have, had one person say, I started walking and I lost 15 pounds. Another brother of ours, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I didn't even know he's watching because he never likes things, and people won't like and they won't comment, and you never know what kind of traction is getting. But then someone 6 months later will be like, you know what? I really appreciated that. And you're like, I didn't even know you were watching. Um,
Right.
but for me, it all comes down to the accountability. It's
Yes.
as vain as it could be. It's sometimes you think like, who's watching this? Why am I posting this? Why am I doing this? It's not good, but it's really accountability for me.
Right.
Yeah.
I had somebody say, "Why do you go live every day?" I was like, "Well, because I'll tell you what. Like, I have guests on, and guests are always kind of nervous about coming on. Oh, we're going to be live. But you know what? I'm nervous every day, but it gives me that, like, it's just a challenge. It's that
Right.
accountability. And I have, I've committed to doing it, and it's just that. I feel like I've gotten better at it. I feel like at first I was really terrible at it. Now I don't feel like I'm really terrible about it. I'm just terrible. So I'm getting a little better. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it's all about. And also one of my brothers, Ross, he said I would only do this like 7 weeks. So I've already way surpassed him. So a lot of times it's just competition and spite that keeps us doing things, right?
That's so true. I love
Now,
it.
what are some of your goals? I know you talked about transcribing it, maybe put it into a blog or something like that. Do you have some plans? Do you have some bigger plans for Crushed Life? I know the podcast has been on the back burner a little bit, and I saw the other day, and that's why I kind of wanted to have you on. As you said, you had that fire and you want to get it back. So do we have some goals? Do we have some challenges?
The challenge was once I got out of my car, because I was in my car every day going to work.
You didn't need any fancy equipment, anything like that. You were just basically, the car was your studio.
Car was my studio. I had my phone. I was using Anchor, which Spotify bought out now. I think it's called Spotify Podcast. I just put my thing in, and whatever was on my mind, I would drive to work, and I would say, maybe I was a new dad, so I was dropping my kid off at daycare, and I was like, I can't believe I'm letting other people raise my child while I'm going to this job that I hate. Like, what kind of life am I living? And I would just rant about that stuff. But then after I started working remote, something about being behind the wheel is great thinking time. And man, I could just come up with stuff. And so then after that, I would walk around the block, but it wasn't the same. So, but I like that show. And, 20,000 plus downloads doesn't sound like a lot, like in the world of downloads, but I was proud of that. I'm still proud of that. So I would like to get that show back, but it's like, how many platforms can you have? I mean, I like doing these video a little bit longer form where you can kind of get into deeper topics with people. So I'm not sure. I think I'm going to try to get the show going again, but I'm going to do it walking, because that way I can play the 5K with the show at the same time. The audio can be a little bit interesting if it's windy. And but that's kind of my thought, is to maybe commit to 3 shows a week, because I really do like it. But as far as goals, I guess maybe I haven't hammered that out, and I think that's what I'll take probably from this show. Having guests. I love having guests on, but guests are timid, and sometimes they'll back out, or
I know.
which I almost did because of stupid reasons. But it's just like. But I didn't want to leave you hanging. So, the goal would be to get the show back going. Again, I have these questions, though. It's like, almost like, what's the point? I mean, the point is for me to grow. But sometimes you wonder, who's listening? And although we do it for ourselves, it's kind of like, am I just pushing this out into the world for the hell of it, or are people really hearing it? And so, luckily, like I said, a couple of weeks ago, I had a buddy at the golf outing say, "Hey man, I loved your shows. What happened?" And that was the second part of it. I was like, you know what? I like doing it, so maybe I should get back on there. So I need to come up with something that's a little bit more concrete. And maybe it's 3 shows a week, something to that effect.
You talked about 20,000 downloads. You said you were happy with it. You said, well, it's not a lot in like the in the big world of content. But 20,000. We get into the habit, and this is also something that kind of makes us all kind of feel negative or down, or that is we get into comparing ourselves to others. You'll be like, oh, you look at this guy on YouTube. He has 20 million listens on this thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we forget that 20,000 people hearing what you have to say is a lot. You went back 20. If you went back 20 years before all this, the podcasting and videos, and I told you, hey, you're going to put out some videos and 20,000 people are going to hear them. You're like, what? Like, you'd think that was insane.
Yeah.
You know, we get in this, where the internet and social media and all that has got us in the habit of comparing ourselves to others, you know, and a lot of things we see on the internet and social media, it's not real. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people with views and downloads and things, a lot of times they're paying for those views and downloads and things like that. That's another thing you have to take into account.
Well, that's true. And that's kind of what I thought about. It's like, well, what if I put a little, mustard behind it? What if I put a little cash behind some of that stuff and promoted some of it? It could get a lot farther. And you know what's fun about that stuff is you can see where people are listening.
Yeah.
There's people in Denmark, and there's people, I have a friend who lives in Denmark, so I know, but sometimes it'll be like, hey, I'm really big in Vietnam.
Right.
So in Afghanistan.
That's funny.
Everybody running Crush Life t-shirts in Nigeria.
Now you quit drinking. How long ago did you quit drinking?
Yeah, that was 11 or 12 years ago now.
Wow. Holy crap. I was thinking it was 11 months ago, 11 years ago. Wow.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. I mean, our son's 8. It was kind of like, hey, if we're going to have a family, maybe we switch up. We were married for quite a while before we had a child, 8 or 9 years. We're like, let's stop this, traveling, partying lifestyle and get healthy. And so we stopped drinking a year before we tried to have a child, and thought, let's get our bodies right. And it was good. Like, just I had a shot of Patron on New Year's Eve and just went, I'm done,
Yeah.
It's been a great choice. I mean, you save money. Obviously, you don't eat as bad, especially on the nights that you are drinking. But it's also been a catalyst for other things. Then to really get into fitness and stuff, which I've been. I need to get in the weight room. Oh, I'm in the weight room now, and that's like my next big thing is to put on some size and really commit to being in there because it's hard to do. And I've been slacking. Like I have a body that will I can notice the changes already. So that's what's making me excited. Right. But I've been neglecting it for a while. So now that I'm seeing it work, I'm pumped. No pun intended.
None taken there, Arnold. And I think, and I heard you talk about it on one of your podcasts, and I deal with it too. I'm going to get into this before the end of May, but with drinking and mental health, it's something with me. It always causes anxiety the next day, the next 2 days. And it's just, I don't have any mental health issues, so to speak. Some people might argue with that. It's only after I drink, you know what I'm saying? It's those, I call it the black wave, that anxiety that just for no reason, do you know what I'm saying? Like just the simple thing that like my car needs gas might just be like, almost debilitating, just little things like that after when I have a hangover. Did you feel that too? I've heard you talk about it. So
yeah, you're hitting it on the head. That was a big deal for me, where you feel like you're gonna die. It's almost like a panic attack. The anxiety was terrible, and I thought, I just don't want to feel like this anymore, and that was a big part of like changing too. I just couldn't, I'd be sitting in the shower trying to figure it out. And really the anxiety, I mean, that went away. Like I used to even take medication for it to the point where I didn't need it anymore because it was self-induced. I mean, I was using something else to bring that about. But I mean, to parlay that into the walking, and if you look at like, the drops in the rates and the drops of depression and anxiety, even just from walking, they'll say 12,000 steps a day. If someone's walking 5,000 steps or less, their chances of depression are like exponentially higher than if you're doing the minimum of 10,000, but they would urge you to do 12,000 steps a day. And that's, I would say that's outside of whatever your daily routine is. Like if you're just looking at your steps and you're doing 6,000 steps a day, just living, I would do 12 on top of that. And I think you'll see your anxiety and the studies will show that your anxiety and your depression will decrease. Plus all the thinking time you get, plus sometimes it's a perfect time to call your mom or your dad because we never make time for that. It's great. Or you can listen to one of our podcasts while you're walking. That would work too. Either way.
And I've said this on the show many times, but for me, walking is it's like physical meditation.
Yeah.
When I walk, I feel like I come up with good ideas. I become more creative. When I walk and I just kind of let my mind go, it's just, you know what I'm saying? That's where the best like ideas and things for my work or for, you know, even a home life or whatever, that's where my best ideas come from.
100%. And you know, there's like science behind that. I mean, if you look like Albert Einstein and these guys will talk about when they get blocked and stuff, they would just go for walks. And some of their best ideas came up when they were on for walks, but also driving too. And I think that's why the podcast and driving, because there's something to do with when we move and the world like moves past our eyes. It's the way we process information. And there's something to do with that, with then how our minds work. So to your point, it makes perfect sense that when we're moving forward, our brains process differently. And I think it gives us a chance to be creative. And that's why I think driving for me in the podcast worked so well. It's harder for me to just sit here and I can do that. But yeah, it's the moving forward, which is interesting because I mean, you're moving forward in life physically and it helps. That's really interesting.
As opposed to just sitting on the couch and everything just comes to a standstill. So does maybe your mind, your creativity and everything like that.
Yeah. You know what I try to challenge myself with on the walks is not bringing my phone and not being engaged, because I will be scrolling TikTok, you know, and I'll be on Facebook or I'll be doing something or listening to something. And it's like, speaking of meditation, can you just do a walking meditation where you're listening to the wind and the birds and the sounds and you're not trying to think, because it is great thinking time, but can you go for an hour with nothing and be unplugged? Sometimes that's hard for me to do, you know, to leave my phone at home and go.
It sucks. And it sucks to admit that too, right?
Yeah, it does.
You know, also another thing in your podcast is like you're talking about living up in Nebraska and you're talking about like in your car, like you can literally drive like a half a mile, take a left turn and be out in the middle of nowhere where you don't see any other cars and you're just kind of isolated. And I saw that you like doing that and kind of free your mind and work on some creativity.
Yeah, that's been nice. Sometimes I'll grab the guitar and go sit out in the country like that. You know, my favorite thing to do right now is there's a gas station about 15 minutes outside of town.
Uh-huh.
I drive out to this gas station in this little town, tiny little town, and I get a piece of pizza from the Casey. And this is like mental health for me. This is like, this makes me feel good. And I'm going to do it today, probably when we're done. Drive out to this little town. I'll get a piece of pizza and I'll sit on the tailgate of my car. And I'll just have a piece of pizza and a pop, or like, well, I don't drink pop, but you know, and get what I'm saying. And I'll just like hang out and one or two cars drives by and it's just, but it's peaceful. And it's like, I have a little picnics. And to me, that's like, it's like calming and it's like recentering. And I know it might sound silly, but like, it's a little mental health break for me in the middle of the day. And it's like me time. But I love that stuff. That's the one thing I get about being here. It's tough to live here, I have to admit, if I'm going to be honest, because I'm not from here. You know, I'm divorced. I only see my son every so often. I don't have a network of friends here. I have no family here. So it's really been a challenge for me not to fall into some sort of poor me. I don't, you know, living on my own, not having that support system has been difficult, to be honest with you. And so I've been tripling down on my fitness. I mean, I go to the gym 2-3 times a day just because it's the healthiest place I can go. I don't go out and I don't drink. And so, you know, for anybody struggling in a similar situation, I would say lean into the gym harder, make those walks longer. I mean, especially if you can't sleep, I mean, walk until your body, you know, those days you go to Disneyland and you go to Great America, like I was saying the other day, and you come home and you're just like, go do that. Just walk until you can't anymore. Until my favorite time to walk is I go out on the moped, walk until you've already thought about your job, till you already thought about your girl, till you already thought about your situation, till you already thought it all through. And then at one point, your mind will just stop thinking about it. Then that's the sweet spot. Then just keep walking. But it's like you have to go get all that stuff out. Call your mom, call your friends. Pretty soon you want anybody to call. You're sick of listening to the book. You don't want to listen to any music and you'll turn it all off. And then like, that's the spot you want to be in. I know we don't all have time for that, but on a Saturday, if you can go walk for 3 hours, trust me, you'll find like this really cool spot in your brain that it might shut off for a little bit. Because I know a lot of people can't meditate. I've been meditating for a decade. It's not easy to do, but that is one way to get your brain to finally maybe be quiet.
I love that. Just kind of unplug from all the noise. We're so busy just bustling around and being crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like we're busy. I talked about this on Tuesday, just busy. We can never take a break.
Yeah.
You know, and like driving to that little small town, I love that you just find joy in it. That's just, people need to find small things like that they can take some joy in the quiet, in the silence, you know?
Well, yeah, because we're always filling our time with running somewhere. Well, let's just run up to the Walmart and do that, or let's just run. But now it's like I'm on my own, so I'm figuring out like what I like to do, and maybe not always running to do something. My newest challenge is going to be not spending money. How do I go a day without spending a dime? You know, like I don't have to go get a piece of pizza. I have food here, but also that's like a part of a self-care routine for me in a way. It's like time to myself, time to whatever. So,
hey, pack a lunch, buddy. Pack a lunch.
Yeah, I could pack a lunch and go. It's true, you know. But but yeah, like just I love challenging myself like that to do or to not do things.
Right.
Yeah.
Brother, we have done 31 minutes, a little longer than your 3 to 5 minute podcast each day. I wanted to have you on, and like I said, you've just created your own little ways of trying to find happiness. You like talked about your struggles, you know, living in a town where you don't know anybody or have that support system, but you've created your own little solution with the Crush Life thing. And I freaking love that. And I love the philosophies that you use. And there it is, Crush Life. We're gonna have to do a shirt exchange. You know what? I'll send you one. You send me one.
I love it.
I love that. My brother, thank you for coming on. Get that podcast, 300 some episodes. That's freaking, and people don't understand how hard that is to do. I remember my brother and I, when we hit 50 episodes, we were celebrating like no other. Doing 300 is hard and it's not easy. And you know what I'm saying? It keeps you accountable. Thank you for doing that, brother. Thank you for coming on here, my man. I love it, brother.
Thanks so much.
What are we going to do today?
We're going to crush life, y'all.
All right. That was Joe Pilka, and this has been the Eat, Slay, Live Daily Grow. Thanks for growing with us, and slay on.